Padres, they're going for it. The Yankees, what are they doing? The Angels, yikes. And Major League Baseball, why do you have to make it so complicated? I'll tell you what's not complicated. The decision to watch or listen to Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. And boy, is it a daily one these days, as we're doing one on a Sunday. We're doing a Sunday drop on the third day of April 2022. Thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen, as we're available on all your free podcasts and catchers. Go listen to us when you're going for a run. Go listen to us when you're in your car, driving to work. Go listen to us when you're pretending to work. You want to hear your pal Sully in your earbud. Hey, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB, or check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. So you can tell right there from our lower third, you can please call me Sully. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of those topics that are really gripping at me on this particular Sunday. Hey, just minutes ago, I'm recording this Sunday morning. Just minutes ago, a big piece of news came down the pike in terms of Major League Baseball, and that is Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea was sent packing from the Oakland A's over to the San Diego Padres. Let's unpack this for a little bit. The A's have traded away a bunch of their players, including Olsen, including Chapman, including Manaea, including Bassett. Frankie Montas is still there. He's probably going to be dealt too, because if you're going to do this. It's funny how I'm letting the A's off the hook in ways that I haven't let the Reds or the Pirates off the hook. Really, the Reds were a playoff team going into September, and the A's were right on the heels of the Red Sox, Yankees, and Mariners. I see what the A's are doing, and they're doing it again with this particular trade that they got two young players, Adrian Martinez and Uribe Angeles, who is supposedly a really good young infielder from the Padres system. The A's have just done a big influx of talent, a couple of blue chip prospects and some quantity. I think there's a difference between a rebuild and dumping. I don't see the A's moves as being dumping. I think they've got very good prospects back from the Mets, from Atlanta, from Toronto, from San Diego. I think that they've given their farm system a big infusion of life. It's strange that they're doing this at a time where the Astros very well may be vulnerable. But the fact of the matter is, while I wish the A's won in this window of opportunity they had, I think they see the window might be closing. Gosh, if they only had a bullpen last year, they may have actually won something. But they didn't. And I see some of these moves as being, well, maybe a little bit smarter than some of the other moves that have been made by some of the teams that are basically tanking. So I'm giving the A's a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But we'll see. This may these A's moves may not pan out at all, or this may be the foundation of a next great Oakland A's team. Hopefully not the next great Las Vegas A's team. As I've said many, many times, I think Las Vegas would be a disaster for baseball. I think it would be an absolute calamity. But what do I know? Let's just hold off for a little second right there. Hey, let me just bring this up. What the San Diego Padres are doing, I think, is really, really smart. I think what they've done is they've acquired yet another good, solid pitcher. Now, I'll grant you that Sean Manaea has had some health issues. This is the first 30-plus start season of his career. Had a good, solid ERA plus. Had a 4.73 strikeout to walk ratio, and made is going to make $9.75 million, which again I'd be more than happy to accept. But the fact of the matter is that to get a decent starting pitcher like that onto a team, not the worst thing in the world to do. Here's the other thing that's smart. Who was his manager last year? Bob Melvin. Who's his manager going to be this year? Bob Melvin. And so you're asking, Sean Manaea to join a rotation that includes Mike Clevenger, Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell. There's a lot of ifs there. You need a bounce back year from Darvish. You need a bounce back year from Snell, who sometimes looked great last year, sometimes looked awful. Obviously, Musgrove threw the first no-hitter in the history of the San Diego Padres. And Clevenger needs to have everything fall into place. And, you have Stammen and Lamet and Johnson and Adams and an interesting bullpen. Now, when you look at that trade that I was talking about the other day, which looks like it's been on hold, but the deal that could potentially be made with the Mets shedding Eric Hosmer and bringing in Dominic Smith at the cost of, with the why am I losing my mind right now? Paddock, thank you very much. I just said, I almost said Musgrove 3 or 4 times. Gives them the room to make that trade. The San Diego Padres have one of the most underrated angst-ridden fan bases in all sports. San Diego, I've called them Buffalo by the Sea. That they are a fan base that has been tortured, that has seen their hearts broken, have seen teams leave, 2 of them to Los Angeles, the Clippers and the Chargers. They now have the Padres. That's their lone of the 4 major sports leagues. I'm sure there's other sports teams there. I just unfamiliar with them. Please forgive me on that one. But San Diego will also never get the street cred of suffering the way that Cleveland did for so long, the way that Chicago Cubs or Red Sox fans had for so long, the way Buffalo fans still have, because of the weather. I do think psychologically, living through a long, difficult weather, thinking about your sports team's failures is part of the visual aspect of your team being a heartbreaking squad. I think that's important as opposed to living in San Diego where everything is glorious. The Padres have to win eventually. They've put together a team, even with the injury to Tatis Jr., they have the mindset of, we're trying to win. We're trying to win right here, and I mention right now. Making the moves for Voit, making the moves for Machado, keeping the team together and trying to see if they can scrap something together and win now. And try desperately to be the first San Diego Padres team to win the World Series since the Gary Coleman made-for-TV movie, The Kid from Left Field. They're going for it, and they're filling holes. They're making smart trades, and they're making moves in management. And I think that this deal, which involves 2 players who could very well turn out to be tremendous players in the future, it didn't, there's no future right now. Now, the hard part, of course, is they're playing in a division which has Los Angeles, the prohibitive favorite to win the West, and they also have the Giants, who, lest we forget, won the division last year. But they can still get in, especially if some of those ifs in the rotation bounce the correct way. I think Manaea is a much surer bet than Snell or Yu Darvish at this particular moment. But if Darvish or Snell or Clevenger bounce back in any way, shape, or form, the Padres are going to put themselves in a position to win. And I'm all for franchises with a certain amount of, for the lack of a better word, sense of urgency to say, we're going for it. We're making the right moves. We see the holes that need to be filled. Let's go fill them. We need to see if we can move things around. Let's go for it. Let's not blow this off season. And some other people have blown off seasons to the point where you got to say, are you even trying? Do you understand that if you make the moves here, it'll be a surefire bet that your team could make the postseason? Padres are doing that. The Padres have increased their chances right now. Their chances of getting to the postseason have gone up since this morning. And how do I know that? I've checked it at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championships, odds, podcasts, reviews, and all the different leagues this season. Maybe you want to put some money on the University of North Carolina. Huh? They defeated Coach K the other day. Quite a game. I don't even follow college basketball, and that was blown away by that game. BetOnline is your continuous source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and sources. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to find out some of the trends in action. BetOnline is where the game starts. And hey, did I mention hey? Thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen every day. What should your second listen be? Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available where you get your podcasts. You're going to really want to check out Lindsey Crosby over the next bunch of days and Locked On MLB Prospects, because he's going to be able to make heads and tails out of all these deals, especially the deals seeing what the A's got back from Toronto, what they got back from Atlanta, what they got back from the Mets, what they got back from San Diego, and seeing if they can put them all together and make themselves a decent new farm system. Want to bring in a couple little things. Frankie Montas is the A's starting pitcher, who's the kind of the last big trade chip that the A's have moving forward. And Frankie Montas will, at this point, I mean, if you're going to do this, if you're going to have this sort of tear down of the team, you might as well just go all the way. They trade away Bassett, you trade away Montas, Manaea. Why not just deal Montas as well? Just go the whole way. And he's 29-year-old, led the league in starts, pitched a bunch of innings, finished 6th in the Cy Young Award. Heck, you get 3 or 4 more good players for him. And that was a deal that the A's had made that was part of the Josh Reddick trade. Remember, Josh Reddick was part of the team, and he was involved in a deal with the Dodgers, sent him to the LA Dodgers in 2016. Well, the A's got Frankie Montas from that. A young player for Reddick. Boom. Then they can flip him for some more good young players. And next thing you know, they'll have a big influx. And what teams need a Frankie Montas the most right now? I would argue the Yankees. The Yankees need starting pitching depth if they're making any noise about being a contender, a legit contender. They need to fill in some of their question marks. But do they have the players in their farm system to pull off this trade? I think the Angels do too. Heck, the Angels, I keep saying this over and over again, the Angels have the 2 biggest potential marquee players in all of baseball, and nobody's even burping their names as a potential playoff team, even with the expanded playoffs. Now, who do I think is getting them? You got some teams with really deep farm systems out there. It could wind up going to Seattle. Seattle's got a bunch of blue chippers. Or you could make a 3-way trade with some of the players involving the Marlins. I bet he's going to go to Seattle. That's where I think. Maybe Toronto. But the teams that could afford to do this and have a win right now attitude. And the Mariners are taking a look at this situation. Maybe the Houston Astros, who probably need another good, solid starting pitcher in the middle of there as they try to defend their American League title. But let's break down those 2 other teams right now. If the Yankees finish this offseason knowing they need to get a veteran shortstop and pitching depth, and whiffed on Correa, whiffed on Baez, whiffed on Seager, whiffed on Story, whiffed on Marcus Semien, who is really not necessarily a shortstop, but you understand what I'm saying there. They also need more left-handed power and whiffed on Freddie Freeman, and then needed starting pitching and whiffed on Eduardo Rodriguez, whiffed on Max Scherzer, whiffed on Sean Manaea, and maybe whiff on Frankie Montas. Don't give me this crap about they weren't interested in them. Why wouldn't they be interested in signing Max Scherzer? Why wouldn't they be interested in putting him in the rotation? Even on the short-term deal like the Mets did. Why wouldn't they be interested in that? Why wouldn't they be interested in improving the rotation, putting the veteran in the shortstop? This would be if you would come up, if they whiff on Montas, which they probably will because they don't have the chips that a team like Seattle has. And I have a feeling Seattle is going to go for it in a similar way that the Padres will. They see a window of opportunity. We're going to go for it. And they've made a bunch of really aggressive moves. Imagine if you add Robbie Ray and Frankie Montas to that rotation. Suddenly, the Mariners would be the pick to win the American League West. I think. You know? Go Mariners. But that's not the point. The point is you have a so-called marquee franchise like the Yankees who you would go through an offseason like this with all of these presents waiting for them. A lot of them, all that would do is cost them money, which I didn't realize was an issue in New York. Doesn't appear to be with the Mets. And if they whiff on that, I don't care how many times you bring up trash cans in 2017. Nobody wants to hear, well, we would have if they did that. I would have done that if my shop teacher wasn't a liar. If they whiff on Montas, there is no valid argument for keeping Brian Cashman. None. Zero. Come at me, you Brian Cashman defenders. You got nothing. This was a offseason designed to put the Yankees back in the World Series. Is anybody going to pick the Yankees to go to the World Series this year? Of course they can. It's a wide open American League. I think Toronto is better, much better. I'd pick Tampa ahead of them. I'd pick Seattle ahead of them. Heck, I think the White Sox and maybe even the Twins are in better shape. Way too many question marks. And brings us to the Angels. As I said before, two biggest marquee teams, marquee players in all of baseball, easiest to market in the world, a generational talent, and a guy who could be an all-star pitcher and hitter at the same time. Gigantic influx of money. Huge market. And what did they wind up doing? Did they acquire Manaea? No. Did they acquire Scherzer? No. They've needed for over a decade a deep pitching staff. A mediocre pitching staff puts them in the playoffs. At least gives us a chance to see Mike Trout in October. The only time you see Mike Trout in October is when they run those Subway ads. That's not good. And they're going to whiff again? And what else happened the other day? What happened the other day was Justin Upton was DFA'd. Now, I get it. Upton has not been very good since coming over from Detroit in when was it? 2017 he came over? Yeah, 2017 he came over from the Angels, and you know, the hope was he had 130 home run season. The hope is that here's this guy, number one pick overall, when you look back at his career, he's had 2 or 3 really, really good seasons. 2 or 3 really, really quality seasons. All superstar, all-star caliber seasons, especially 2011 with Arizona. You know, so you can't say that's a whiffed number one overall pick. But that being said, he's not been the superstar, but maybe he could be a productive outfielder. But the Angels realized, you know what, we're going to be better paying him to play elsewhere. And if you're a team like the Indians or the Marlins who have good pitching and could use good hitting, here's a low-cost possibility. A guy who is going to cost you virtually nothing. You're basically going to pay him like a rookie because it's going to cost the Angels, what is it, $20 million or whatever to pay him this year. So they're going to be on the hook, and maybe you'll get a pissed off Justin Upton, who has a halfway decent season. If you're a team like the Marlins or call him the Indians, it's going to take over a year. You know it's going to take over the Guardians. I'm just going to call them Cleveland. Cleveland, whoever participated in the 1997 World Series. Are they Florida or are they Miami? I don't know, but it's also Cleveland. They could all use Justin Upton because it won't cost them anything. You give him a shot. Maybe he'll go on a rampage. Maybe he wants to show his value. I don't know. The interesting thing is it's the second straight year the Angels have eaten a gigantic contract. And in both cases, in a vacuum, you can understand. It's the end of the deal. We're not going to get anything out of him. We're going to pay him anyway. We might as well have another player play that instead of having no production. Last year was Albert Pujols. This year it's Justin Upton. And in a vacuum, both of those seemed like the smart move to do. Because, well, you know what? We're not going to get anything from him in a trade. We might as well just send him off into the ether and fill that roster spot. But when the same team is the one that keeps doing we're going to pay a tremendous amount of money for a player to not play for us, That's a red flag. It's a red flag that bad decisions are going to be made. Yes, you could say the current group didn't make the Upton deal or didn't make the Pujols deal. Fine, but you're still looking at the culture of a team that says, all right, we've tried to get all these has-beens and washed-up players and try to see if we can rekindle them, and we're going to keep playing. They can't take the argument that they're not paying. They're spending money. They're just spending it wrong, and they've had a decade to spend it right. And that's the thing that should make baseball so enraged that they're wasting the primes of both Trout and of Ohtani. And their name didn't even come up in the Manaea deal. And it's probably not going to come up in the Montas deal, as they're going to pay Justin Upton to either like maybe be a platoon player in Philadelphia or take a shot in Miami or in Cleveland to maybe resurrect his career at a bargain basement level, while they're paying him a fortune. Justin Upton's kids and grandkids can go to law school based upon what the Angels are going to pay them just this year. And he's going to be doing it somewhere else. That's a sign. That's a sign that one marquee franchise can't pull the trigger for reasons I still don't understand in New York, and the other that likes to think they're in LA is pulling the wrong triggers. The Yankees and the Angels could be a great ALCS rivalry. You got New York, you got Southern California, you got Mike Trout taking on the Yankees, but that's not going to happen. You and I both know that. Baseball could market that. Wouldn't even take much effort. But alas, if this is the case, where two teams are spending huge amounts of money and still are coming up this short, that's a sign of incompetence. Incompetence. Come at me if you don't agree with me, but you better bring your energy. If you want to bring that kind of energy, bring it with a Built Bar. Built Bars are the best tasting protein bars out there. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the best Built Bars ever. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy. They're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. They're a fan favorite with some incredible flavors. I can't even say it. That's how good they are. I couldn't get flavors out of my mouth. Yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're so good. These are going to be your new favorites. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, the Puffs included. They got low-calorie, high-protein. Replace your candy bars with these. These are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Go to Built.com, scroll down to the macros chart. You're going to be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 8 grams sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein, and so many great flavors. Mint brownie, coconut almond. New this month, you got white chocolate cookies and cream. They're delicious. They say, hey, Built Bar acts like this. We have an idea for a flavor. Sounds delicious. Great. We'll make it, and then we'll make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they do it every time. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15, get 15% off at Built.com. You know, I've been screaming about how baseball needs to do better work in getting their games on the devices, on your phones, on your tablets, how you're listening or watching me right now as to one of their some form of device, and to stop acting like everyone's sitting down at a TV. Don't black out the local games. Find out ways to do it. And I'll give baseball credit. They are trying stuff. In the last few years, they have tried stuff. They've tried putting some games on Twitter. I actually kind of dug that. They've been trying to put some games on YouTube. That's kind of weird. And they've been working out something with Apple TV. And now some games, Yankee games, are going to be in Amazon Prime. Okay. I like that you're trying stuff out. I do. I think trying stuff is better than stagnancy. Stagnancy is acting like we're all still watching on television. Okay? At least you're getting muscles going. At least you're moving some things around. I want to tell you something, though. There is a certain amount of fatigue that is going on from the people who have been watching devices, especially since the pandemic started, and going like, is it on Amazon? Is it on Netflix? You got to make it easy. One of the worst things you can do is to have someone say, where the hell is the game? Where the hell is it? Where is the GD game? So you have an app. MLB is an app. That should be your subscription service. That is your Netflix. That is your Amazon. That is your YouTube or whatever. And show your product, have your product out there as like sampling, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on the Twitter, and then have all your games available on your app. All of them. All your playoffs, all your World Series, every matchup, Sunday night, have them on your app. Do you know why? Because that way you own it. You get all the ads, but also people say, where's the game? Where the hell is the game? Where can I find it? Because one of the worst things you can do is have people who are on the fence ask the question, where can I find it? Because if they can't find it, they'll find something else. There's a show called Slow Horses. It's on, I think, Netflix. Yeah. Or maybe it's on wherever I was watching it. And it was good. Gary Oldman, spies in England. It was pretty cool. I'd never heard the show before. I'm hooked. I'm going to watch this show. Now, if I'm looking around trying to find a game and I can't find it, guess what? There's something else on. There's so many shows out there. So many shows that I could watch. I'll never catch up to all of them. So the nanosecond you make it hard to find, people catch up on their cues. Answer the question, where can I find it? It's on your app. All the games are there. Just put them all there. This is how we're consuming stuff. And eventually, everything will be that easy to find. All your NFL games will be on the NFL app. All the NBA games will be on the NBA because that's where we're going. So get there first. Show them that's where it is. Stop making it so complicated. Okay? Where's the game? I thought it was here. Well, these games I think are on Amazon. Or is it YouTube? Or is it Paramount Plus? I don't know. It's don't make it complicated. Make it simple. And then you get the eyeballs. And then you get the power. And then you inexplicably start quoting Scarface. Well, this is not Locked On Scarface. This is Locked On MLB. I had to do this episode because so much was happening this morning. Thanks so much for making it your first listen, as we're available on all your free podcasting catchers. And this show was brought to you in part by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your place for all things sports wagering. Not sure that was a sentence. Check us out tomorrow. We're going to do a two-parter with Millard Thomas, the host of Locked On Diamondbacks. We're doing our Mondays with Millard. It's going to spill over to a Tuesday with Millard. And we're going to be previewing a little bit of what's happening with the season that's coming up. And I'm editing the new In Memoriam video, which is going to be up just before opening day. And bring your Kleenex and handkerchiefs for that. It's going to be a tearjerker, as it is every year. So this has been Locked On MLB for the third day of April 2022. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. As you can tell right down by there, you can call me Sully.